I call the Town of Rome Board budget meeting to order on Thursday, October 15th, 2020 at 3 p.m. The first item on the agenda is call to order. We're there. And the second is roll call, starting with my far right.
All right, here. Halligan here.
Johnson here.
Iverson here. Weisinger here.
Thank you. Item 3, certified posting of meeting, please.
I certify that on Monday, October 12th, 2020, the agenda for the Town of Rome Board meeting number 3 for Thursday, October 15th was emailed to the Wisconsin Rapids Tribune at 3:21 p.m., posted at Rome Town Hall at 3:47 p.m., at Fritzl's Trading Post at 4:07 p.m., and at Inclusive Port Edward State Bank at 4:12 p.m.
Thank you. At this time, item 4 is approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Item 5 is citizen comment. We have not had any requests to address the board at this time, so we dispense with reading requirements for item 5 and 5A. Moving on to discussion and possible action on the following items. Item 6, discussion and action, review the 2021 Town of Rome budget. At this time, I will turn the meeting over to our administrator.
Good afternoon. So at our last, we've had 2 budget meetings so far. At our first budget meeting, we did fire, cemetery, Rome Town Center, building and grounds, community donations, and zoning. At the last meeting, we had the Ellers presentation. At this meeting, I handed out a packet for the budgets of police, highway, IT, solid waste, tourism, and parks that we'll walk through. I also provided you with some information about health insurance that I want to walk through, where we are at with levy tax right now, and then just kind of an update from that Ellers presentation where we talked about that short-term borrowing. So I think maybe the best way to do it would be just to walk through these budgets, to see where they're at first, and then let's talk about a recap from Ellers and the insurance piece for next year. So, police is on the top, revenues at the beginning. If there are any questions, otherwise I'm just going to go through some highlights as you're looking through it. Obviously, some carryover for capital projects. The chief has gotten notice, though, that we should get a new squad before the end of the year, which is accounted for in the expenditures of this budget. We did not get a new squad last year just due to delays with manufacturing. You're going to see a little bit of an increase in their property tax. The rest is pretty standard there. On the second page for police, going through expenditures, you're going to see that increase in insurance like we've seen across all of the budgets. The police officers are under a negotiated contract, which we'll renegotiate next year, but you're going to see a reflection there of an increase because this year will be our first year, full year of that 6th officer. So you're going to see that, that's why that's that increase there. We also increased wages for both patrol and ATV to $18 per hour and to $22 for part-time. So our hours that we utilize, those staff members are the same, but the wages increase there. And then you're going to see that increase in health insurance, which we're going to go through it in detail later on in the meeting, but that's reflective of our 20% increase that we've been advised from our current healthcare provider. All of the other police department expenses, their mileage, their operations supplies, our pretty much the same. You're gonna see an increase in contracted services for the Lexipol. We also saw that in fire. They both purchased that service this year as a means to track their policies and to make sure that their policies are updated with current state statute. It also has a training component to it for the officers. Utilities did come down for this next year. Now that we've had a year within the new police building, we were able to draw that down some. We just had a better understanding of the utility costs for those buildings. And then capital outlay for next year, we rolled over a squad since we weren't able to purchase from last year. So next year, hopefully, we would have the purchase of 2 squads, hopefully. And the equipment that would set those up. Chief is here if you had any additional questions about the police budget.
I didn't get one last year.
With manufacturing, there was a delay.
So we ordered a car in October, and normally we would have took delivery of it by December, but we haven't got the car we ordered last October yet, a Dodge Charger. It's just being built as we speak. The COVID went into effect, and they made some body design changes, and the same thing happened in 2020. You could not order a Ford SUV like we're driving in 2019. It was a changeover year. You couldn't order them until late this year, and now with COVID, it's all backed up, so it's COVID-related delays.
But we should get one before the end of this year.
Yes, I was assured that we would be receiving one shortly.
That's not a charger.
Yes.
Quick question about police property sales
Yes,
on the revenue page.
the first page.
Yeah, can you just go through that line and just,
Property sales is, so next year we'll have a squad to sell. And likely, we may have more than one squad to sell depending on when this new squad arrives. But it's the sale of the squads or excess equipment.
so what you were saying is this year it could have sold for 4,000, next year probably 3,000. So there's a decrease in the amount.
Yes, and last year, we did budget for the sale of a squad. We just didn't have any property for sale, but we will for sure have at least one squad for sale next year. But you'll see property sales reflected in fire, highway, and police, because when they have that surplus equipment, it goes for sale.
And there's a 500% change.
That's because we budgeted $500 last year, and we're budgeting $3,000 this year. Yeah, small numbers, but big percentage.
Most disturbing was the health insurance. I mean, it's almost 60%.
Yes. Chief, I'm gonna do highway first, but then I'll do IT. So on highway, this year we had the conversation, that I'm not as well versed or good at road bids as Brad. So we do have, not slightly. So we did have a carryover for the prior year revenue. Most of that is that bringing forward of GTA funds. There's a slight decrease here in property tax because we did receive notice that we will receive our full amount of GTA funds for next year, which is very good news. We expected there might be a decrease. They had said as much as 30% because when COVID happened, the money wasn't coming in through gas tax, but we did not receive a decrease. You're also going to see that highway state grant try. That's our piece of the trip money that we were awarded last year in order to redo Fiesta. We have to pay a piece of that, and then we get the other piece from the state. That project, we didn't get a signed agreement through the state, that it channels through us through the highway commissioner. So that project will get put to next year, but that's our piece of it, so that's separate from GTA funds. I would, in permits, we've done a lot of driveway permits this year. We've done a lot of all permits. I think Greg says for building and zoning permits, we've hit an all-time high. We've never issued as many as we've issued this year. I don't know if that's true for driveway permits, but it's been a lot.
Yeah, on the list.
Expenditures in highway, again, you're gonna see that increase in insurance. We also covered some things in highway that had not previously been covered. There was like 3 trailers. And I'd have to look back some other equipment that you're gonna see that increase there. Just a reminder, the superintendent's, oh, I should change this to director instead of superintendent. This is why we do this. The wages there, 85% of the director of public works goes to highway and 15% goes to parks. So that's at the 85% of the wage. Highway full-time is the 2% increase proposed. And part-time works off average hours. We do a 3-year average of hours for roles within part-time staff. Here on health insurance, I should just note, you see a decrease because we had changes. Some people that took health insurance before didn't take health insurance now. So it's not that highway department is healthier, it's just that they had changes in options of who took insurance. The additional expenses of like mileage, dues, operations are very similar to last year. Office supplies, contracted services are all pretty standard. Highway road material, we did go a little bit less, but our salt shed right now is full. We do have the option to take additional, but at this moment, we're ready for winter. Road maintenance there, you're gonna see that number, it's a large number. That's because we have that carryover in addition to getting all of our GTA funds for this year. From the road plan, the 5-year road plan that I had distributed at the last meeting, Brad has used for 530 of that already. So if other projects can get maybe slated up to next year, depending on contractor schedules. But again, good news, we got all of GTA funds. And then next year under capital outlay, we're gonna be replacing that Kubota tractor, putting a mower on it, and purchasing a concrete saw.
Why is unemployment up 350%?
So this, I think in the past, it's been budgeted low. You can see in 2020, it was only budgeted at $1,000. And we did have a high claim this year within highway. So by the end of the year, we expect to spend $900, so we did increase that budget to $4,500. Again, so we're going from $1,000 to $4,500, so it's a large percentage, but that's mostly due to having a large claim that's out there.
If we go for next year, we get this budget 9,000.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
and we've had an internal conversation too about how to change some scheduling around within highway to avoid going over budget next year. But the one claim that we did have was a situation that was in that moment, unavoidable.
So how is it the sign, had it on the agreement? We didn't lay anybody off, right? Is this from sickness or illness on the job?
No, they were left. You, it's
Wasn't
based,
99,
what was that?
wasn't 99 for a while.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, when I get the statement, it's based on their last 4 quarters of earnings, and then it tells me a max dollar amount that they can collect out that last 4 quarters. So they can collect until they hit that dollar amount.
If they stay on unemployment, are we obligated for all of that, or only up to that dollar?
Up to that dollar amount. At IT, the only revenue source into IT is property tax levy. Then in expenditures, this budget is going to look very similar to last year. We obviously have the operational costs that we have every year for Solaris and equipment for our town web design, for our website, and for Rushworks, who we handle the TV, our streaming service through. Then in capital outlay, we did not purchase a server for town hall this year, but we are still looking to replace that server. So that expense is in there next year for that $18,500. That would be for that replacement of a server for town hall. Chief, you want to add anything to IT?
No, there isn't much there. Server, I think, is the only large project for next year that got carried over from this year due to COVID again.
Solaris increased their hourly rate to $100 an hour.
They increased cheap amount, did we get a number from them?
Their rate actually varies. It depends what tier level of service you need. There is some more in there because of the setup of the server. We imagine there'll be some bugs and stuff that we will need their hourly assistance to get that all transferred over next year, and that level is a higher tier than your normal call. Their support is
I was just looking at the difference of $4,000, which is
100 is your average wage. Some of those guys are up to closer to 200 an hour, the engineer type people, so.
So next is revisiting solid waste from our first conversation. Brad, Amy, and I looked at the solid waste budget in several different formats. The main number that we would be looking at today is that tippage fee. We did take that down from our last meeting after our conversation about the potential of what a 4-6-4 plan would look like. So in this moment, what this budget would include is the potential of creating a new entrance into solid waste, having a station out there, that, a structure out there for the attendant to be in, to check people in, and to really focus on that enforcement piece and that training around enforcement piece for utilizing the transfer site. There is funds in here that if 464 is too little at some point in time, we could get another dumpster. But this also is, again, this budget has a focus on that enforcement piece, trying to really focus on that enforcement piece. We, starting next week, are doing the in-person absentee voting in the parking lot. And we're having a structure built for that, for us to be out into the parking lot to do that. And when we're done utilizing that structure, that is the building that will go to the transfer site to set up closer to the road in order for them to check vehicles.
Will it have a heater?
He promised me he'd bring it.
Okay.
Depending on bread.
And we'll be done.
So I wanted to make sure that we just talked through again, this number does reflect a 464 plan, starting with the 4 dumpsters in the early part of the year, going to 6 in the summer, back to 4, but it does allow, if we hit a situation where that's not sufficient, where we could add a dumpster or 2 here and there, that the focus will really be on that enforcement piece through the year. I should also mention Brad and I attended a meeting with the town of Richfield. Obviously, we're not the only town that's having this issue. And as towns, we're going to see what other options we may have.
So starting in January, we'll have 4,
4 open tops.
and then going to 6 just before Memorial Day.
Yes. Yep.
The Labor Day.
Yes. 8.
And we still have the opportunity to put charges in here for trailers and things like that, that are full construction trailers.
Well, so those would be contractors. If contractors come in, that's going to be reflective in your user fees. So our user fees, we did increase, we're expecting by the end of the year to be around 29,000, but next year we proposed user fees of about 27,000. So that's permits, or you pay for a mattress, but obviously our contractor permits are those larger cost items. Paying for a mattress is $10 a TV.
What about residents who want to bring over construction material, are they going to be allowed to dump their fuel?
If it's their construction material and they're hauling it in, yes. If they are paying a contractor and the contractor brings it in, no, the contractor has to pay the contractor.
I think that would be fair game as well.
Or to charge for all construction. I will say that the town of Richfield, they have already started very strict enforcement in their town, and they have cut in half already their usage of dumpsters by just having a person out there that now everyone knows the town and looks in every vehicle. They're making sure they're a resident of the town of Richfield. They're making sure that they're not dropping items. When they did not have someone out there to monitor, they got things like hot tubs and refrigerators and things that they didn't take. So now someone is out there checking their address and ensuring what they're bringing in to be dropped there.
With the number of weekend people, how is that person to verify one address?
So there's a property tax book that's out at the transfer site. So if you own property in the town of Rome, your name would be reflected with that property. So if you provided the address that you own that property, you'd be in the book. If you were new and had maybe just purchased that property, we always ask people to bring a bill of sale or a light bill, something that reflects their name and that address.
Are they gonna have window passes out there that they can issue if somebody comes
They do now, yes, yep. Actually, at this point, all window passes are issued out there, we don't keep any here at town hall.
I'm curious if we're gonna have a similar experience of that other town. I bet it's gonna be better, but 50% is a lot.
Yeah. And maybe ours won't be 50%. I just also say, you know, with increased enforcement may come increased conversations around the fact that enforcement happens.
We're still gonna get an economic breakdown or analysis of having a code alter,
We will still put that forth, but not for this moment in time, but potentially for going forward. That's another conversation with the surrounding towns. Is it at some point make sense for us to join together and do that? As, you know, 5 or 6 of us towns and purchase the truck and share the driver. Or contract with a separate service, or, so we're having those conversations. I think our big X factor at this moment is that enforcement piece. We don't know when we really have that person stationed out there and that's really watching and checking how much the load decreases. And then I think we'll know better what our next steps are once we know through enforcement how much trash we're actually bringing in.
You said charging residents for construction waste. How would we go about doing that?
sort of footage, I guess, probably on a trail.
We'd have to work up a method because we don't obviously have a scale out there, so.
What's the plan on the 4 dumpsters get full?
We either ask people to come back once a dumpster is available. We'll have to ask them to come back once a dumpster is available, because if it happens on a Sunday and they're full, we wouldn't want them to put it on the ground. We'd ask them to come back on Wednesday once we have a new dumpster.
So you're not gonna allow them to put it on the ground?
No,
That's gonna have to be monitored,
yes.
but the rules on the ground.
Do you think it would be feasible or appropriate if once all 4 dumpsters are full, then we won't allow anybody else in? We just say now the transfer site is closed because we are in at capacity.
No, because we could still take the trash compactor, so your bags of garbage and your recyclables.
So
Yep. But could we make a method where we put out a red flag that says you had construction waste, you were full? Yeah, we could do that.
A sign or something where you're checking them in now, you have that opportunity to say we're full, we can't,
Yeah.
Is that gonna be something for turnaround so people can get out of there without having to go into the town?
Well, I think we would put the flag on Apache so you can drive by instead of having, if you make the turn. It-
And I assume you would direct them to the county landfill because it's still there.
But not on Sunday, because they wouldn't be open.
With the, I don't know, maybe you've been out to the transfer site in the last week. We've got a new bin set now for the scrap steel. And with the reorganization we have planned with moving some of the dumpsters around, if we do become full, there's a way I think that we could actually maybe put some barricades over that area or something to block people from going. So to keep your traffic coming in just to your recycle or to your 2 trash compactors. And they won't be able to get around to the south side of those dumpsters.
I think that's gonna be a necessity, because human nature is going to be that, you know what? I'm gonna dump this crap, and I don't care. And then it's gonna end up on the ground. It will happen. That's just the nature of society.
And you have the enforcement component too, is people get adjusted to this with the police department then, and people just dump it alongside the road. And we have to consider that's a possibility. If we tell them, oh, we don't have the capacity until the next day, we're certainly gonna have to watch for people that are low.
I can assure that what the chair said is gonna happen. If somebody's got a trailer full of stuff and the bins are full and they're sent away, there's a percentage of people that are gonna turn down a back road and shove it off, and you're gonna find it on your fire lanes. We've had that in the past, even with garbage, when they first closed the Mondays, people that had loaded up, chucked it, we were able to find their name and household garbage inside them, but you are gonna get an uptick in dumpage on forest land.
They're already dumping it before they change anything, some of it, like TVs and, right, Jerry?
Yeah. I think it's gonna be very important that we have a trifold or some mechanism to hand out to people. And I think sooner the better, we're definitely going to 4-6 forward.
What's the fine for,
$250.
you could put a sign up at the transfer site too, huh?
I think there is one. So the county already, we have a trifold brochure for the transfer site. The county has a trifold brochure with their number, or with their hours, what they take, and then a listing of all of the transfer sites in Adams County. So, I mean, we can utilize those two resources and then, share with residents, I think, starting with the budget meeting that, this is the plan and that we are going to be doing the enforcement piece.
Yeah, it's just, it's cost-cutting measures that have to be implemented, and you can't, it's either that or we just raise the property taxes, whatever the day you want. You want your property taxes to go up, or do you want to be, or do you want to adapt your recycle through the transfer site? What's going to be the least impactful?
Some information like that could be handed out as people go through the transfer site.
Yes.
Or get their new, window stickers or something like that. It would be very expensive.
The window stickers work every 2 years, but once we would have the shelter out there and we're staffing everyone, we can certainly, provide them that information because they would all be staffed coming in. And I understand we might have some individuals that do that. We might have individuals that do, if we weren't having the budgetary issue and we just decided to do the enforcement issue, we still might have individuals that do that. I mean, I think the enforcement piece we have to do because we can't continue.
A positive byproduct of coming in off of the gravel road to the dog park in that way is going to create a better flow through the transfer site. As anybody that's been there, it's a lot less on Sundays, depending on what time you go. I hope this will be a positive byproduct.
Did you say at the last meeting you picked up 2 TVs?
2 TVs so far this year, and actually, one of them wasn't even in town.
No, it was a big plus. Yeah. Chief, how many TVs do you know have the officers picked up or noted? TVs, furniture?
Off the top of my head, without looking, I wouldn't know. I know when we did that search and we were back in the woods and stuff, we found several, areas where tires were thrown out, and if there was any sofa type stuff like that, the things that we charge money at the site, there's tires here and there that have been discarded and stuff.
One thing I put in, Jamie, is I think the normal, I'll say residents are gonna be coming in for those open top dumpsters, they're gonna have minimal stuff to put in them. I'm open to enforcement of getting the contractors to to stop coming here or to pay for their share, we'll make it so our residents then will have room for putting their stuff in. Just two examples. Last weekend, one of the dumpsters was almost completely full of carpet and linoleum and the sub pad underneath. The comment was made to me, unless someone's got a hotel down here they tore all the carpet out of, no one's got houses that have that much carpet in it. So obviously a contractor came in and threw away his seconds and remnants and cut out pieces. You get rid of that, there's one dumpster itself right there that's being taken care of. Another issue just came this past week, we had an individual who cleans out foreclosed on properties. Came in with a large trailer full of debris. And I guess it's been going on most of the summer, and I will thank our attendant, he charged that person. And that's the first time that it's been done. So our monitoring and enforcement is going up. One thing maybe we could think about is if you aren't a resident of Rome and a contractor, you can't bring your stuff here. Because even this guy here that cleans out homes, he might not have a tag in his window, but are we gonna allow someone without a tag to come in and for $40 a load still drop?
It should not.
It shouldn't, no.
No, I don't think so. If they're in Adams County, they can haul it down to the landfill.
Okay, I'm in agreement. I think on the weekends when these people are working, like Jamie said, Adams County's only open until noon on Saturday, and they're open on Sunday. We can't be their place to take it just because the other ones are closed.
Exactly. It comes down to personal accountability. It's just, we can't be everybody's keeper.
It's a contractor that's not resident of Rome, he's working in town. He would have to prove where he's getting that material from, the address, the name, the house, the property it came from. He can't supply that, not,
And he still has to pay for the contractor's permit. He's still a contractor. It's just that the waste could come here with the contractor.
so we shouldn't allow him to come in
No,
with material he's taken from someplace else.
yeah, totally agree. So this budget is gonna be watched very closely next year as we go through these changes. But also just, again, wanna have the conversation that with the enforcement may come additional conversations that people had that enforcement happen. Next is the tourism budget. This is where we keep track of our room tax, the 70-30 split with Visit Rome. We get the estimated numbers that are here from Visit Rome while they work through their budget for next year and then conversations with the hoteliers in town. So you will see, though, for 2020, there is a decrease in that amount that's going to come in from the 70% for Visit Rome. We were thinking budgeting last year would be about 368. We're thinking more 296. So our piece of that was 170,000, will be 130,000. Then you can see the numbers that we work with Visit Rome for the 2021 budget. But we've obviously had decreased capacity in town due to COVID. And although our Airbnbs, our short-term rentals have done well, our largest room tax provider is Sandow. Can I steal your packaging? That one? I don't have a front page for my next one. Let's see that stuff. let's have that conversation first, and then that'll lead better to the flow for the budget. So, the water for the splash pad obviously comes from the Rome water utility. The splash pad was in operation for 2 less months this year, but the water from the utility was about $18,000. We've been averaging between 20 to 22,000 for the water for the splash pad. The budget you see today is balanced in parts between Derek Hughes expenses and non-Derek Hughes expenses. In the past, which is about 1.5 years prior that we've had the splash pad, that water expense came out of Derek Hughes, which it shows. Derek Hughes has no levy funding in it. It's funded exclusively by grants from the state. So we cannot continue to fund the water from Derek Hughes. There is levy in the parks budget, like there was last year, this year. It is an increase to the $31,200. That does account for moving over some items that were in other budgets to parks for the mowing of the great lawn, for lawnmower blades, some other expenses that came over. But it also then does take the cost for the water this year and next year from parks, not from Derek Hughes anymore. It's an operational expense that we've got to work into the budget.
These other expenses that came over are about $5,850. And they were funded somehow through Public Works before. So we're getting expenses but no revenue.
You're getting, so you had $25,000 worth of levy last year. You're getting $31,200. So you're getting your $5,800. We did account for the levy for next year would be $32,200. So what moved from other budgets would come over. But carryover for next year would be reduced, because it would be that $18,000 for water this year, so it would come from Derek Hughes, and then that cost would be figured in. What that essentially means for Rome Town Center Park is finding additional revenue sources, additional fundraising or grant dollars, or scaling back the work slightly by years to accomplish it. We still will match, we're still putting in more than the $25,000 levy, but we have to account for the ongoing maintenance costs of what's there.
I'm not in favor at all of reducing the amount of money that we're going to have available towards the government from the park. If we have to, we can find other sources to fund the $25,000 for the park.
So the other sources, which we're getting to that part next, the other sources can't be levied. We can revisit a conversation with the water utility about the water, but there's still a cost to that water. But we cannot continue to take it from Derek Hughes when those are grant funds. So we'll keep walking through parks, and we'll come back to that. We plan to carry forward prior year park revenue there on the top. That's going to be Derek Hughes. This budget is now split really for parks Derek Hughes and parks non-Derek Hughes. Then carrying forward for parks non-Derek Hughes, it's going to be $4,600 because of that water expense. We're going to bring in the $31,200 of property tax that would go to Rome Town Center. The state grants there that we expect to get for next year for Derek Hughes are outlined. User fees, we are going to increase user fees and rental fees at Derek Hughes next year. So you're going to see a big increase there because those fees are going to go up. Donations for both Derek Hughes and donations for non-Derek Hughes. And I reflected the Visit Rome and the legacy in there. Then for expenses, we have insurance both for Syracuse for the recreational area, and that's for the $850 is to insure the splash pad. We will take out, when we get to the point where we would be building the band shell pavilion building, we'll take out a contractor's insurance on that, and then it'll have, that line item will go up once that building is constructed. That's the full-time wages is 15% of the director of public works. Like I said, that's split 85-15 between the two budgets. And then part-time wages all reflect that 2% increase for next year. And those are just done by hour averages. Your health insurance then is going to be 15% cost of the package. Operations for Syracuse went down a little bit, actually quite a bit for next year, and I think that's just a better accurate reflection of what's really being spent for operations. And park operations, we have moved to here the sprinkler startup and shutdown, some landscaping materials, the paper products that would be for the bathroom structure out there, and then miscellaneous construction supplies if they're needed. Then you're going to reflect those two utilities, one for being at Syracuse. This year, we did get Wi-Fi out at Syracuse, and that's being provided free from Solaris because riders can use the Wi-Fi, and they get charged a small fee if they're not a Solaris customer, so it's free to us to have it out there. And then Parks Utilities non-Syracuse, that's where you're going to see reflected that water utility expense for the splash pad. Then you'll have the mowing operations for Rome Town Center Park. The capital outlay for Parks Syracuse are the projects for next year. And then this is just where we hold that carryover funds. Not that we expect to spend all of that, but so the budget balances. And then Parks outlay for non-Syracuse, which would include our design for the band shell and the start of construction for the band shell and seating next year.
So next year, you're budgeting $24,550, is that the one?
Yes, and it's slightly more next year than this year because of that 2 years we were closed due to, 2 months, I'm sorry, I said years, didn't I? 2 months we were closed due to the COVID.
Are we putting in $25 for the park, for your park? You know,
Shall we say?
$25 for the park development.
We have $31,200 in property tax that would go towards Rome Town Center in the budget. Then we have the $50,000 from the two $25,000 donations. But that $31,200 is covering also the maintenance cost for the park. The mowing, the splash pad water, the wages for the mowing,
$25.
and then $24,000 for water. Estimated for next year.
Yeah, essentially, the use of the amount of money to spend on the development of the park this year.
Yes.
And what I propose is that we find some other source of funding for that $24,550.
What other source of funding?
You know, we have a bank savings account of $3 million. You could take money out of there, that's less than 100%.
But it's also an operational cost. That's not gonna, the operational cost to run the park will always be there.
Yeah, if you took it out for the next 10 years, you take out 10% of it.
Yeah.
And then at that point in time, you'd have Sound Valley coming back, so we would have a definite big increase in the levy at that point.
I would strongly discourage using savings to pay for operational costs, ongoing operational costs. Using savings to pay for capital items that are one-time expenses, but not operational costs.
Right, the other option is to go to the electric and ask for more money from the levy.
Didn't we budget 25,000 last year for that project?
Yes.
We did.
But what I'm saying is, last year, you did budget the 25,000, but you took the expense of the water, the maintenance costs to run the park from Derek Hughes, which you can't continue to do.
Which I agree.
Yep.
But
We can still budget
we still
money
need,
from there, and if it has to come from savings or something to do it, it doesn't have to pay for progress, it can pay for the capital projects. I think
part of our matching grant was that we committed 25,000 from our budget in order to get the matching grant from.
Not this year. We don't have a grant this year from Myers.
And we,
Next year, yeah.
and we did give the 25,000, I mean, the 25,000 went towards the park last year. And it's not that the 25,000 is not in the park, it's totally being spent on Rome Town Center. It's just including those maintenance costs.
But next year, we would.
Next year, the 31,200 is totally going to Rome Town Center. It's just including your maintenance costs to facilitate Rome Town Center.
Your expenses for Town Center next year are $40,000 more than your revenues for Town Center. So it's not just the water, it's $40 grand off.
You know, when we present the budget to the public, we're getting killed on this water expense because there's no rate for high volume users like most places have. Is it too risky to go before the electorate and say, you know, we're doing this wonderful thing, we've got these grants, but we're getting killed, we're on the waters of a splash pad and ask for $24,000 increase that the electric can improve. So not short the project. What do you think of it?
Well, I just think that if you short us $25,000 for capital improvements in the park, that's going to extend the amount of time it's going to take to develop what we want to do with it. Probably at least a year.
I'm not disagreeing with that. Like I said, the parks budget that's here is balanced.
It's only balanced because we're spending $25,000 less on the Rome Center Park.
So we can have a conversation with Rome Water about revisiting that, a tiered system. We can have that conversation. But if that, I still think you would proceed with this budget. If you had that savings, if that happens, I think that's great. And I think it's, we can certainly have that conversation, but,
Let's back up for a second. You made a comment that I agree with, that if you're taking any money out of savings, it's for a capital project. I'm looking at this band shell and that park development as a capital project. And, you know, that isn't going to be an ongoing expense year after year. We build a band shell, it's built. You know, we don't build a band shell a year. That's a capital project. And if we're getting sucked under by all the water going through the splash pad, I think it's at least worth the consideration of taking money out of savings for that one capital project, because it doesn't repeat every year.
We want the budget to kind of remain level, you know, to have these dips think that the water should be in the park budget. It's just that this is the first time we put it there, so what happened is it throws things off. So, you know, we voted last year to put 25,000 in there for the capital projects, not for the water. And so, you know, if that's gonna be something that happens, and I think Bob's right to look to the future, when Sand Valley gets the paid off and everything that, then suddenly they're gonna have a little more money to work with for the parks and for the kind of projects. That's good, but in the meantime, we gotta figure out a way to level that budget as we go, so it's not doing this kind of stuff every year.
Again, this is a capital project. Is it not?
What we got in savings?
If that's your fund balance, and by your policy, you have to stay above a certain percentage of fund balance. You have to retain a certain amount.
17%.
Yeah, our, it's
We're not
17,
really over.
yeah, 17%.
We're not way over.
No, yeah, according to ours, we're way over.
No, we're at 23%.
And our bylaws or whatever say 17%
Right.
minimum. So between 17% and 22 or 25%. I don't want to see that go down to 17%. I think we all agree on that, but we've got a one-time capital project here, developing that town center park. I think it's worth considering. Just to get the project done, because it is a capital one-time project.
Just to be clear, it's not going to be a one-time thing, because next year we're going to be sitting here faced with the same thing. We're not going to continue to develop the park, we're still going to be $25,000 short.
Like it's 40 grand short, you're not 25, you're 40. So you'd be taking 40, right, from some,
When do we get the grant?
that's included in it.
How do you think we're 40 grand short?
I did a breakdown by non-year seasonal. Yeah.
Are you
So-
assuming we're going to spend more than what we have next year?
So next, I'm doing the math quick in my head, but next year we budgeted for revenues for non-year things for 85,820. You budgeted for expenses for non-year items at 104.5. That's more than 25 grand.
That's not what, the budget that you have in front of you,
Is not what this is.
yes, balance.
This is what you have.
Yeah, this number would include that additional funding within the band shell, that additional funding within the capital outlay.
I'm kind of liking this role reversal here, because I was always the guy saying that fund balance has got to go up, it's got to go up, it's got to go up, and now I'm on the other side of it saying we need to spend a little bit of it for this capital project. So it's kind of fun being on the other side of that argument.
Okay. So what do we have in savings right now?
I would have to look, but I think,
3 million?
I have to look because a lot of it is accounted for in the budget for the remainder of the year. You look at the 3 million and you think that's all fund balance, but it's not. I still have to get through the end of the year. We don't have anything more coming in between now and the end of the year. and budget.
Okay. Just for discussion, let's use 3 million. You think that's fair or
No, that's very high.
that's too high?
We have to operate for 3 months yet on that 3 million.
Okay, what do you think would be a fair figure just for discussion?
that would be difficult. I would want to just pull,
Because we have a lot of departments that haven't spent the money yet.
yeah.
Yes, I think that's right.
We would want to,
Your cash flow.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see, okay, if we know it's X, then our bylaws state 17%, but we know we don't want to be at 17%. Okay, we want to be at, say, 20%. So how much excess do we have then that we could give to the Glen Town Center parking lot?
I don't know that you would phrase it how much excess we could do we have? I think you want to say, what would you need for next year to keep the project going?
Well, I go back to what we said last year, we were committing $25,000.
What we were intending to spend next year was the $75,000 that we're going to get from the grants that we have, plus the $25,000 that we're getting from the tax levy. Plus our carryover, which we had, I think it was $18,000 to $20,000 carryover.
See, that's down to 46, to the water.
I think that there needs to be a bigger explanation of fund balance, 17%, 22%. Yes, we say that we have to have 17%. What it does, when we finish the talk, what it does, it keeps you fiscally healthy, it maintains your bond rating, having 17% or higher, and you don't have to borrow for cash flow. So, and I'm guessing 17%, 17% does not meet that criteria.
You're not gonna meet the Moody's rating, and it's just.
No, I'm not talking about Moody's rating. I'm
Yeah,
talking
that's your
about-
bond rating, that's what your bond rating is.
Yeah, I'm talking about not having to borrow for cash flow. 17% should cover us, but there's two items there. One is the bond rating, which we just got, and the other one is not having to borrow to continue operating. We can legally borrow to continue operating. Is it a good fiscal practice? No, it's not. So, but there's different elements there that fit together. I guess I would want more information. I'm suggesting, since this is a capital project, looking at making a little bit of savings to complete this capital project, but I would need more information before I would feel 100% sure going in that direction. And I'm trying to help, Bob, we believe in this project, and we never would have started it. I don't want to lose it. But we've got an issue with the cost of our water, and that's what's driving this conversation.
Yeah, I don't want to lose the money either, but we have one jump from legacy. Is there a solution for us to spend capital dollars, not pay our expense dollars on the water?
I also think Legacy would understand, because they gave us the $500,000 for the splash pad, which has been very successful. I mean, they want us to continue operating the splash pad. And we can do some additional figures. I would note that although there's less in here, you would still have 55,000 next year that's going forward to continue Rome Town Center. Yes, maybe it delays a year, but you're not taking from fund balance, and you're balancing the parks budget. Is it so?
I'd still like to be healthy and around long enough to enjoy that project being completed and to keep pushing.
One more year, Chairman? I think you make it one more.
You may have to come to the cemetery and put a picture on my tombstone when the project's completed.
It'd be more than a year, actually, it'd be a year,
But that's also assuming no other, because this budget doesn't take into consideration other donations or other revenue that we potentially could get.
And this brings us back to a discussion almost 4 years ago, when some of us got elected to the board and we're sitting here, do you want to accept this $500,000 and develop a splash pad, yes or no? On the surface, well, we'd be stupid to say no, but I remember part of the discussion, well, what's the ongoing cost going to be? John, you were part of that. And it was, we're going to have some additional insurance, we're going to have some maintenance and upkeep, and we're going to have some water, but gee, that won't be over $10,000 a year, the whole thing. And now we're looking at $24,000 just for the water. So,
Somehow we need to get a better rate on water.
And we can have that discussion.
Got a better rate on that, we have funds up, put it in the
I would still like to see an analysis of completing that park project in the town center, what we were looking at initially with revenue, the legacy, with the tourism bureau and the town putting in. And then the hole that's created by the water from the splash pad, how we could fill that hole within, either taking it out of fund balance, going to the electric and asking for an extra 24,000 a year, or if there was some magical grant that came out of the sky. But I think we need a little more information and look at those options.
You can secure a short-term loan, like I was talking about. That's possibly.
That's a fourth alternative, sure.
We're gonna talk about that in just a little bit, because of that alternative that was proposed. But what I hear is not that we would do the whole park project next year. We're talking the 25,000, that you would have that 25, a full 25,000 available for Rome Town Center.
But if we're taking money out of fund balance, don't ever call it savings, because it's not. If we were taking it out for the project, they'd like to only take it out once and get that capital project on the track.
I go back to what we committed to last year, $25,000, and I think we have to find a means to honor that commitment. Not just to the board here, to the Parks and Rec committee, that was our commitment, was $25,000. And I feel that the water utility is real goofy to me. The water utility is a town resource, it belongs to the town, correct?
Yes.
But yet, I feel as if we're getting not only run over forward, but run over backwards, because we're paying such an exorbitant rate.
We're not paying a higher rate than anyone else is paying for water. We're just using a substantial amount more of water.
We're paying the residential rate. There's only one rate.
Yeah.
Our
We're not,
residential rates are high. They're high.
but we're not paying, I don't want to give the impression we're paying more than anyone else. We're using more water than anyone else.
But we're paying the residential rate.
Yeah,
Have we, or has the water utility ever looked at a commercial rate?
That was a real touchy subject with the water utility.
Which we can have the conversation again about doing a tiered rate, more usage, less of a fee. But it still would have to go through the Public Service Commission, because it would have to go through a rate change. But we can revisit that conversation with them. But it still would have to, it's not solely the water utility's decision, it would have to go through a rate change.
I stand by our commitment to $25,000, so whatever we need to do, I think we have to keep figuring out how we're going to honor that commitment. Because otherwise, why make a commitment if we can't honor it? And I know you can say it's only pushing it out a year. Well, we push it out a year, and then something else happens, and then it becomes another year, and then something else happens, and then the project, it lingers, and it loses its traction, and then you end up with maybe part, 80% of what we were looking at. I don't think that's good either.
We're getting commitment, 25,000, be matched by Legacy and Mr. Rome. I agree with you.
and we all agreed you're to that to support the project, so I'd like to keep my word.
But then we're looking at that, I just want to be clear, if you would be taking it from someplace else, you're only looking at making that 25,000 that goes to Rome Town Center. We're not looking at funding the whole project next year. Because again, you're giving, there's already $31,200 of levy in here. And so I'm going to take the piece that's already going into Rome Town Center out of that.
there's 30, but we're looking at a $24,000 water bill, correct?
Yes,
That
yes,
only leaves $6,000.
yeah. But so are we taking a whole 25 out with it? They're just saying the 25 and then for next year?
The plan for the park was to spend approximately $93,000 this year on capital improvements. So if you take out the $25,000, that's going to reduce the stone to about $63,000.
I agree, we've got to stick to our agreement on the project.
This is kind of like health insurance in a way, because it's gone up so much. Like Wayne said, we were originally told it was going to be like 10,000. We had all these people telling us that knew how much water was going to be used. And
The other thing we could do too, we could look at throttling down some of those venues over there with the splash pad. They don't have to use that much water.
We did this year. You traveled on
We could look at it again.
We don't have a recycler. So water comes out and goes right down the drain.
it has to, because of the fact that it's chlorinated and you have to get rid of it. You can't keep it around for viruses and
As far as, if I could add, as far as like throttling it down or bring the water usage down, each structure has a certain gallon per minute that it puts out, okay? So when Chad and I first got that started up, we ran it, and then he started monitoring how much water was getting used based off the time. So then we knew how to back certain elements down. So the gallons per minute is matching what all of these fountains and structures need. So to really back it off, you're gonna have, instead of a spray, a dribble coming out the end of it.
Well, and that, so, but then you might as well have a splash pad. So, there's gotta be a means to balance.
Well, when you push the button over there, maybe there's one kid, two kids that are there. Why is it that you have to have all the features come on at one time?
they
It's an 8-minute cycle.
it's like,
But every time the button hits, it goes through the full 8 minutes.
Does it have to go through full event?
Then I don't know.
We could set it, I think we might set up to a 4-minute cycle.
They have to push the button twice.
Yeah.
You push the button, and use a minute, and they're gone to someplace else. I think that would be a better,
Yeah.
rather than cut back the amount of water pressure going in, cut down the time when it comes.
The only thing I kind of wonder is if a family's there for an hour, whether that cycle's for an 8-minute cycle or a 4-minute cycle, they're still there for an hour, they're probably still hitting that button that same one time. You're still gonna use that same amount of water, no matter what the cycle is.
Let's
What it'll
say,
cut down on is the kids that maybe walk by, hit the button, then went over to the swings. That'll be less, because it's not being used.
how many, sections of the splash pad are there? 35 or 45?
There's 4 rotations in that 8-minute.
Or rotate all?
Yeah, like you have, let's say there's 20 structures, 20 fountains. During the first 2-minute time period, maybe 5 of them come on. And then the next 2-minute period, another 5. And then so not all structures are on at the same time.
I thought each section, each structure was, had its own thing, but it doesn't, it goes through the whole cycle.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anybody just take an hour, they stay the whole afternoon.
Yeah.
So it's 4:15, we have a 5 o'clock board meeting. We'll bring Parks back and continue this conversation on the 27th, just because I want to talk about insurance today, because it's on your meetings for this afternoon at 5 o'clock. So I gave you 2 additional pieces of information. One is a chart that looks like this. This is a health insurance analysis. And then one is the draft levy piece. What you can see from draft levy, I think everyone was with us last year too, and we did this. We always do a comparison of last year to this year in our allowable levy. And obviously we had this conversation with Ellers, our allowable levy is less, and because of our increased costs, like the 20% health insurance, right now we're $99,300 short on budget. We did have the
Is that
conversation.
total or just for home?
That's total across the budget, we're $99,000 short.
$178 short case.
Yes, when we had the conversation with Greg with Greg's projections, we were 178. Greg's projections are similar to ours, but they're not exact on, because he's doing a percentage increase. So we did have the conversation about a short-term loan. We in turn took that conversation to our audit firm, which is Clifton Larson Allen. We talked about how to put that into the budget and how to create that capital budget. At this moment, we really need to have Clifton Allen Larson come in and sit down and have that conversation in person. They, I think, would break it down a little bit more specific than the way that Ellers would break it down. And we just need to do that with them in person so we set it up right from the first time. In addition, that loan would have to be in place by November 1 in order to be put onto the levy for this year. You have to have it to the bank back here and approved by November 1 in order to put it onto the levy for next year. We have been working though, I've been going through with the staff the conversation about the change in health insurance and moving to the Wisconsin Public Employers Health Insurance that's administered through ETF. And I'd ask in your board packet if you would bring the brochure for ETF just to kind of talk through the program. It's obviously insurance that's provided throughout the state, and because of that, there are several carriers that are part of the plans in order to facilitate wherever the municipality may be within the state of Wisconsin. The town is currently on a high deductible plan, and the state offers a high deductible plan through ETF. What they don't offer is a means in which to offer an HSA, which we already have in place, which is good. I've been going through and just discussing with the staff about checking their primary care providers and looking through this health insurance with their families. And we are ready, provided board action tonight, to distribute out enrollment materials to move to ETF. Couple differences from what we offer now. We have a $2,500, $5,000 deductible. ETF, and I'm looking at page 6 of the guide, ETF would have a $1,500 and $3,000 deductible, and then a max out of pocket of $2,500 and $5,000. And the difference between the $1,500 and the $2,500, and then for the family, is going to be a co-insurance at that moment in time. So while our deductible would be less, our max out of pocket for both single and family would be the same. Right now with our insurance though, we offer a limited family, which is just either an employee and their children or an employee and their spouse, and that would not be an option on this plan. With the 20% increase though, the family comes in very similar to what our limited family would come in right now. Then just, because it's a ETF and the state plan offers a lot of different options, but the other page then I just want to refer to is page 15. These are all the healthcare providers that the employee could select from on the high deductible plan. But when you enter into the state program, as an employer, you can only pay a maximum of 88% of the Tier 1 provider that's in your county. For us, that is WEA Trust East. So we right now do an 85-15 split with employees, and what we would continue to propose going forward is to continue that 85-15 split. But just so you would know that we would, the max we could ever cover would be 88% of that 553.60 for single or 1847 for family. That's just the way the plan is set up. In addition, we have to offer the insurance to everyone that we currently have on WRS. And we have less than 50 people on WRS, so we wouldn't have to be underwritten into the program. Underwriting it otherwise would cost approximately $3,000. And if we go any place other than the state, we'd have to be underwritten because of our part-time equivalents. We would be a large employer of over 50 people. So it wouldn't make sense for us to go to open market. It would only make sense for us to move to state insurance. I did have our current third-party provider, OnSay. We provided for the last 4 quarters of our wages, and she did confirm again just this week that she could not provide a better rate than this, and she cannot provide better than a 20% increase with Aspirus because we're a small group and we have some large claims on those. But we do have some employees, we have some part-time employees that have joined us on WRS, likely because they've been with us for a number of years and probably hit that 1,200 hours at some point. That's the number with WRS to enroll is 1,200 hours a year. And they will also be extended the insurance where they haven't been on the insurance before. It's their option whether or not they would want to take the insurance, but they need to be extended. And we have to hit a minimum of 70% in this original enrollment in order to go on. The state also offers dental and vision as supplementals through Delta Dental. I've given you the brochures from both of those also. Currently, the town does offer dental and vision, and we cover 100% of the premium for those. Those are, I think I just said, both through Delta Dental are provided. The state is also through Delta Dental, but the rates are better, obviously, because they have a larger buying power. They're buying for municipalities across the state. You do, however, have to be enrolled in the health insurance in order to get the dental and vision, even if you take it as supplemental, which is how we would take it. We wouldn't package it with the health insurance, we would take it as a supplemental package with them. But you have to be on the health insurance in order to get the dental and vision rates. There's a slight difference in the dental plan that's offered to the way that the state plan is offered, and I'm referring to page 4 in the dental plan options. They offer a preventative plan, and then you can select an additional select or select plus plan. We would be proposing that the town would offer the preventative plan, covering your preventative dental care through the year up to $1,000 max per person. And then if an employee wanted to, maybe they knew they had some orthodontia or they had a crown coming up, they could select those additional plans at the rates that are provided on there. And that would be of their cost that we would take pre-tax out of checks. You'd have to do open enrollment to go on those plans, or have a life event to go on those plans and off those plans. But you could say you knew you had a child with orthodontia, you could go on that plan for a year or 2 until orthodontia was done, and then choose not to continue it. The town would still provide the preventative. Health insurance, like I said, there's a lot of options, and I'm going through this really quickly. I just wanted to kind of talk through with you what the plans were, so you had an idea of what we're considering moving to. Then I have the sheet that just talks about the cost analysis of this. You can see that with Aspirus, our 2021 health plan cost there is about $402,000 for the town. And if we would move to ETF next year, again, the plan is considered without dental because we would be taking dental as supplemental. It would go down to $292,000. So moving to the state plan and still taking that supplemental dental and vision at their better rates, it has the potential to save the town $84,668.
And that's not factored into any of our budget
That is not factored into any of your budget. It would dramatically decrease your $99,300 difference.
Yeah, $2,000. Well,
Again, we still would have to go through the enrollment process with ETF. You have to meet the 70% of initial enrollment number. And just work through the paperwork. But provided at the town board tonight that you would motion that we do want to continue to move forward with the plan. I should mention there's also, this analysis includes a additional contribution to employees' HSA for the change over, in case they wanted to take that additional dental benefit, or if they reflect changes in any of their items due to the change in insurance, depending on their situation. But then we would refigure the numbers in the budget with this insurance and move forward with enrollment with the staff.
What's been the reception by the staff?
So far good. We've done a series of in-person meetings and gone through the process. People have checked their primary care providers and they've been covered. There are 6 pharmacies in Wisconsin Rapids that are covered on the plan. Done a series of emails with questions and answers that I've gotten back from staff. And there hasn't been any negative towards the plan or moving towards the plan, but there is a desire that if you go to the plan to have that increased HSA into the HSA.
And we factored in the total cost of the additional HSA?
Yes, with the addition to the HSA, which is would be another $375 for a single or $750 for a family, you would still see that $84,000 of savings.
Before?
Yeah. And again, that's also, that is assuming that those that haven't, they take the same package that they have now, which we always have a little flux, right? Because in open enrollment, that's when you can make changes. But we don't know those things until enrollment documents go out.
It's going to save the staff some money, 215%.
Yes. Some people. Those that were unlimited family they will still see the increase because of what the current rates are, but they'll come up very similar to when the 20% increase went in with Aspires, with our current provider.
Save 84,000, and staff is comfortable with it. No-brainer.
Making this decision is on the agenda for a meeting at 5 o'clock.
Yes. Yes, and provided you would move forward, enrollment materials would go out tomorrow. We would have to have everything back to ETF by November 18th to finalize enrollment for the first of the year.
But all employees will have to be submitted to this now by the
Yes.
that's the standard of the
It's usually the 30 days of December. It's usually December 1 through December 30th. It's different for us because of this being the initial enrollment. So it will start as soon as you approve and then go till November 18th. Next year, when we're on the state plan, once we've entered, their open enrollment for existing members, because then they're doing this with new communities, is way earlier. It'll be September. And staff members will get this mailed to their home, and then right in the front cover it says, I want to make changes, or I'm comfortable with benefits. Staff members would, if they're comfortable with their benefits, they make no changes, otherwise this would walk them through how to. I should mention another nice piece of this health insurance is that it does offer a Wisconsin wellness program. So if you complete 3 steps, all staff can get an additional $150 a year for doing wellness checks. So, although I don't have, it may be an option in the future for the short-term borrow, not an option right now because of the timeline in order to get that in place with the bank and us getting the setup with our auditors in a means in which they're comfortable that it's reflected in our budget. But this has the potential to have that savings.
And we consider borrowing, cover the cost of the squad and the tractor. The equipment has got a 10-year life, just financing those two. Take that out of the budget.
If we did that, we were thinking under that short-term borrow, but not a long-term borrow, just because those items are, I mean, the tractor would be 80, but,
Well, it's seven,
yeah. Yeah, we don't have it as debt proceeds right now, but,
rather than taking money out of the phone balance, finance those 2 units, take it back in line, give us some money for the, make $25.
yeah. We can see, once we do the open enrollment, where we come out with the final savings. Again, my numbers include, everyone taking that insurance. So we can see how we come out at the end, and then revisit the conversation about the park. So then next meeting, we'll go through general, because we haven't done general, that's our large budget. Library, we do Rome Water and the park again, and I can give you an update on where we're at with the insurance change. We have to be prepared that if we wouldn't meet the minimum or something, or other things would occur that we have to fall back.
Any other business? Hearing none,